Hi everybody, it's Brett Bell from Grassroots Online here for episode 21 of our weekly video podcast, which we call RootsCast. With me, as always, is the athletic wearing partner, Mark Hardwick.
Athletic wearing partner. Woohoo! Got
Look
my
at
Jays
that,
hat
decked out
on.
in your Jays hat.
Ironically, I have bedhead, so for a bald guy, it's a little bit weird. But I got my hat on today, so we'll just get this show on the road. We won't be talking about my hat or my glasses or my beard or my hoodie or anything. Let's talk about the issues that matter today.
All right. Okay. There's a little a note for next time. Do not talk about his appearance. There you go. Good. Good to know.
Poke.
Poke, yeah, absolutely. So, well, we actually do have some interesting things to talk about. Let's roll right into it. So, the first one we're going to talk about is the Ontario election. As you know, or folks may or may not know from the last episode, there is an Ontario election here, which is scheduled for June 12th. And what we decided to do is talk about, at least this first week, we're going to talk a little bit. Last week we talked about giving some tips for Ontario candidates, which apply to all candidates. But this week we're going to talk a little bit about the Ontario election again, because obviously Mark and I, both being from Ontario, are following this pretty closely. But this is something worth talking about because I think it applies to all candidates. So the Liberals, the Ontario Liberals, pretty much across the board, are this week had a little bit of trouble with social media. A number of their candidates were not caught, but had posted some very, very interesting or embarrassing content on their Facebook and Twitter accounts. I'll show a few of them in the screenshots, but again, they all seem to be Liberals this week. I'm not sure what's going on there, so let's see. So this one, this is the Ontario Liberal candidate apologizes for Facebook posts. So this particular Jack Uppel was posting sort of some man versus women humor, which a lot of people didn't find particularly humorous. We have another Liberal candidate, which is posting photos of gals' rear ends, some toning advice in terms of toning up your posterior there. And another one here, an Ontario Liberal candidate out in London was under fire for sending out a tweet, and I have to read this tweet before we start talking about it, where he said, "Oh, that's just my 2 days after leg day swagger. You know how we do, cashing checks, macking on ladies, and having trouble with stairs." So, yeah, Liberals are having a little bit of a tough time out there where they're not properly vetting their social media accounts. So what do you think about that, Mark?
Well, maybe a little bit more time in the online space, a little bit less time worrying about people and the gym, per se, I guess. Seems like two of these candidates have some gym issues. Maybe they're not going to the gym often enough. But
yeah, they seem to be obsessed about personal appearance and fitness. There's no question about that.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. Maybe it has to do with the premiere and running. Maybe they're trying to get in there and try to get some exercise going or something. I don't know. Whatever. Either way, all jokes aside, completely unacceptable. What were you thinking as a candidate, or let alone as a human being, that you would post such unflattering comments about women? Basically, I'm not even going to touch on the other stuff about the men and the women, but posting a comment that women are just better liars than men. They're better lying than men? Really? Like, you really thought that was appropriate, and if you took it literally, it could be offensive? Really? That's the apology you give? Really, if you took it literally? You know what? Apologies aside, that was a stupid move, and I gotta be honest, it's not really smart of the Liberals, who should be checking out their candidate website, candidate social media, before the opposition finds this kind of stuff. I mean, you should be finding this stuff on your team and getting them to get rid of it so that it doesn't turn into, this has turned into somewhat of a major news story. I got to be honest, like, front page of my newspaper is this Facebook stuff rather than talking about issues. So the opposition parties, I guess kudos to them, have been able to push this into the media so far that it's front page news as opposed to real issues that matter. So,
yeah, and I think, like, look, to me, this is social media 101. And, you know, issues aside, what they were saying aside, all that kind of stuff, we could debate about, you know, sexism and all that kind of stuff, and it's an important debate. But I think what we want to talk about here is this is really, really basic stuff. And I know some of the folks on the liberal team, and they're good people. And again, politics aside, they seem fairly capable. But again, I don't know if this was a social media issue or this was a political issue, sort of dealing with a political organization and vetting candidates. But this is like really, really basic stuff. And even if you're not using it to vet it, I mean, ultimately giving these candidates instructions on, say, look, you need to go through you're a candidate now. You represent the party in your riding. You need to go through your Facebook, all of your channels, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, whatever. You need to go through all these sort of things and figure out and take a look and see if there's anything that might be a problem. And frankly, that should happen even before they stood as candidates. Like this is politics and social media 101. I mean, it's unbelievable that this is sloppy. And to your point, right? I think you make a really good point. This has taken them off their message. It could be called gotcha politics and all that kind of stuff. And so I've seen some commentators saying, okay, like we get it, right? Yeah, now we're stretching it a little bit, but fair enough. But ultimately, this takes in the world we live in the news cycle we live in, this has taken them off of their message for 2-3 days. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous that something that something like this can blow up so large that we're now off messaging. But I gotta say though, you gotta wonder if actually parties need to start doing some social media training with their candidates before the stuff types.
Well, they should be.
I mean, there's not a. I mean, I know from different involvement in different campaigns that there is talk about training and there's tips and things like that given, but I think this should be a wider part of what parties are doing now. They should be actually spending the time with their candidates training. I mean, when there's conventions and when there's different things going on. I know you and I have pushed for a lot of training in social media and a lot more push in social media for politics. But it's still not there yet. It's still not a major focus, and clearly it needs to be a major focus because these blunders are happening, which you mentioned are taking people off message. So if you spend the 2, 3, 4 hours at a convention or 2, 3, 4 hours training candidates on messaging, what to look for, what not to post, if you get that feeling in your stomach that you shouldn't post it, you don't post it. Like, it's simple as that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of more about morals and the guy's morals here, but and you can't train morals; it's impossible. But
fair enough.
There's a certain amount of training that can be done to avoid this type of thing.
Yeah, no, there's no question, and I think that part of what I'd like to see from all parties is that the vetting, and you and I both know from our experience and from who are watching this, the candidates vet them on various levels. So they'll do criminal background checks and things like that. And while this isn't as serious, there's no question about that. I do think it's really important that the vetting process, the initial to figure out whether or not this candidate is acceptable to be on the ballot for the party, that the parties need to actually go through and look at they have to submit their Facebook URLs, their Twitter handles, all that kind of stuff. Say, these are all my social media accounts. Please go through them and sort of check out, see what's public. I mean, look, private stuff is private stuff. That's up to them. But going through all the public stuff and figuring out whether or not that there's potential issues there. Because I think to your point, I mean, again, is this serious? I don't know from in terms of what they feel or how they are as candidates. Some of them, I think, were very poor attempts at humor, and it just makes them look bad. But I think that going through that will help to create the picture of who the candidate is, right? Because we know, me personally, I think it's a pretty good window into who a person is based on the stuff they're saying when they don't think anyone's paying attention. Right, so it's different when you're a candidate and you're all scripted, blah 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 blah. But when you're actually out there and you're not a candidate and you're saying things privately, well, that goes to show. I think that's a pretty good illustration of who you are as a person. But that being said, I mean, guys, please watch this. Use your privacy settings. There's so many, especially on Facebook. There's so many privacy settings to determine where you post, who you want to post it to. If you want to post something that you think is off color and funny, or whatever the case may be, but not for public consumption, then you know what? Post it to only your close friends. Use the privacy settings on Facebook. For your page, for your posts. Guys, please. First of all, don't do. To your point, Mark, don't post things that if you're questioning yourself and you're saying, I don't know, yeah, that's probably a good indication you shouldn't be posting it. That's the first issue. But number two is, guys, use your privacy settings. That's what they're there for. Figure out who you want to get, whether it goes out to the public or goes out to your close friends. I mean, this is 101, man. It's unbelievable. I'm just shaking. See, hear me? I'm shaking my head. Just shaking my head. Like, it's unbelievable, man.
Yeah, I don't have really much more to contribute on this because it's just pure stupidity, and actually I'm embarrassed for this guy. You know, sometimes I actually believe that people need a license for Twitter and Facebook because you have to take a test before you can get on these kinds of social networks.
Yeah, no kidding, eh? Like sometimes you have to wonder. I mean, there's no question about that. Well, yeah, but I guess the only thing. Well, I'll ask one. I guess one other thing that I was thinking of, which is, I'm wondering if this is going to have a cooling effect on social media, because I think that one of the key issues that I hear from candidates and others when I'm doing training or things like that, and you've done this too, they're afraid of exactly these kind of issues coming up. Like, this is textbook. They're like, oh, that's why I don't want to be on social media. And my concern is that they, rather than learn to do it properly, candidates will just essentially just say, you know what, I'm just not going to tweet. I'm not going to post on Facebook. Now, that kind of stuff, which I think hurts the communications process in terms from the public, giving public the access to candidates and their thoughts and engaging in on all the great things that social media does. I'm concerned this will sort of have that cooling effect. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I would say to any candidate who said to me, well, look at what happened to Jack Upple, or look at what happened to, you know, the squat man. I'm going to call him the squat man from now on. Look what happened to the squat man in Niagara West Glanbrook. You know what? Like, my answer to you is, well, would you post something like that? Would you?
Yeah.
Would you use your common sense and post something like that? The answer would be no, and I would say, well, then you're fine to be on social media. No problems. Yeah. I mean, this is an issue of someone not thinking before they posted, and I mean, the majority of people have morals and wouldn't post stuff like this. I'm actually sometimes I'm embarrassed for friends that I have from high school and stuff, and some of the stuff that they're posting, and I'm like, you know what? I don't want to see your stuff anymore, so I just remove them. Sometimes as a friend, if it gets out of order, or sometimes I just remove the person from being able to see in my newsfeed. So yeah. I don't think it's a big issue for candidates. If you're posting legitimate stuff and you're talking legitimate policy with and engaging voters, social media is not an issue anymore. If you're going to get into posting women's behinds, then yeah, it's going to be an issue for you. But that's not because of social media. It's because you're stupid.
Well said. Fair enough. I can't add any more to that. So we will move on to our second topic. There's a sort of a large, I guess, fair amount in the media right now is a sort of a movement. I hesitated because I was going to call it a movement. I'm not sure if it's a movement. That's what we're going to discuss. Was this hashtag Bring Back Our Girls, which I will. I'm going to post right here. Essentially what it is I think Michelle Obama probably had the. It's not working here. Hold on. Let me try this again. Come on, baby. There we go. No, did it work? Okay. Yeah, good. So essentially, it was Michelle Obama, and she's talking. I think she brought it to the biggest prominence with this hashtag movement for these Nigerian girls who were kidnapped by a radical organization, and now they're sort of trying to create this movement to bring back our girls. And one of the things that people have been doing is putting up these, posting to the hashtag, but also a number of high-profile, celebrities and people like Michelle Obama and others who are essentially. Trying to promote this cause. And it's interesting because what I've seen, why I wanted to talk about it is I've seen the debate going on right here, and the debate is essentially about slacktivism and whether or not that these hashtags and things like that are actually doing anything whatsoever to solve these problems. And you sort of have two schools of thought. One being, look, this is actually going to take real intervention, military or otherwise. Your hashtags and Twitter aren't going to do anything. And then there's others, which I wanted to bring it up. There's one particular. I read a article by Colin Delaney in ePolitics, and essentially what he's saying is, look, it's not going to essentially. Solve the problem, but it's raising awareness, and raising awareness will put pressure on governments, and then governments will act. So it's just a question of how different methods, whether it's direct or indirect. So I want to get your thoughts on it, Mark, and because I'm not sure how I feel about this stuff. I want to get your thoughts because I'm somewhat conflicted. So what are you thinking about this, Mark?
Yeah, it's a tough one because it brings out the my human side, which doesn't come out very often because I'm pretty
You're
robotic
human?
as a.
What? You're human?
No, like there's these hashtag. The thing with hashtag movements is that a lot of people jump on board because it's trendy to be on board,
Yeah.
right? It
Yep.
makes them feel better that they're doing things. It's kind of it's a self-esteem thing, right? It makes people feel better. I'm sharing. I'm doing my part. I'm putting up a picture.
No question.
You know.
No question.
So I look at it that way, and I'm like, well, you know what? That's kind of selfish. Because
Okay.
this is a really serious situation. I mean, this is 300 girls who have been basically kidnapped and are going to be sold off to men that are probably 3 times their age and enslaved to be their wives,
Yeah.
basically, and worse, maybe even killed. And they don't deserve this. So that's where I get into this hash. That's where I get upset about the hashtag and these people who are just using it to feel better inside because they think they're doing something.
No, but I guess the question I'd ask is, and that's fair, and I don't know, fair enough. But the question I want to ask is, do you think like is it contributing positively to the I guess the whatever the resolution is? So we've got this, and we've got Coney 2012 and others where they've sort of Ukraine. There's been a whole bunch of different global movements that have been not hashtag driven, but social media driven, or there's been a large social media component. Do you actually think that in and of itself, forget the military actions and all that kind of stuff, do you actually think that these kind of things are actually helping the movement or are helping find a resolution, I guess is the way that I'll say it?
Is it going to help find a resolution to these kidnappings? You mean?
Yeah, or anything. I mean, like, do they add any value to the campaign? I guess is what I'm asking. In your
Well,
opinion.
I think it's a place. I think the hashtag is a place for people to congregate, as opposed to people just sending out tweets without any hashtag on it. I think it's a place where people can congregate and talk and support each other. I mean,
Yeah.
because it is a big issue for support. But do I think that the hashtag is important in getting things done and having the government react? I'm not sure yet. I don't know if it's going to force government to actually to the U.S. government to actually intervene and force the Nigerian government to do something about it. And can they even force the Nigerian government to do anything about it? I don't know the laws enough that the hashtag will work. I know that it is providing a lot of media attention, which in turn will force the government to do something, whether or not it works or not. I mean, to be honest, I'm not very confident that that they're going to be able to find these girls. I mean, how long has it been? Right, like, what are we in? What are we in? Are we in week 2 now? Week 2?
Yeah, 2 or 3. Yeah.
So, like, I'm not very confident that if they don't get in there soon, they're going to find them. So I don't know how the hashtag, other than to get them moving, does much. But I'm sympathetic to people that we need to do something about this. I don't know that the hashtag really provides the push that needs to happen for the government to react.
Yeah, I think I'm torn as well, maybe for different reasons, but I'll sort of lay it out there and go from there. So my general view is, look, I always believe that offline action is going to be a lot more powerful than online action generally. Even as somebody who participates in online mobilization, that's really what our core business is. I still believe that obviously actual offline action will be much more will create a lot more action, I think, or a lot more pressure on government. But that, leaving that aside, the question is whether or not that this stuff actually does anything, whether it has any impact at all. There's a couple things I'd say. The first one is that it's a different situation because in the U.S., like, look, the West, I'll say, like, the West is a major contributor to social media content, right? So people who are on Twitter and things like that, the ones who are using these hashtags, are from a different country than Nigeria, right? So I think there's a much more direct impact on the political process when the people who are tweeting are actually your constituents and people from your district and people from your area, right? So there's not that direct feedback, because what's happening is there's a bunch of noise or activity taking place from people who are from a different country asking that government to take action. So you already have a challenge right there in terms of getting people to take action. The other two issues that I have with it, and the concern that I have, is not that it should be dismissed, because here's the thing, I do think that there's value, because I can tell you that I didn't even know about Joseph Kony until the sort of social media push. I mean, do I think about him now? No, and that's part. I'll talk about that in a second. But I read about it. I do read the papers. I knew about the Nigerian situation, but I think it's far more in the public consciousness because of things like these Twitter movements. Now, that's a positive. I think that's real positive. Now, what happens when we move into how is sustained pressure and turning this into a real movement where actually action happens? And that's the challenge, is that I feel that when people, or the concern that I have is when people post to a hashtag or things like that, we'll call it the slacktivism, so they like something or things like that. I don't like the term slacktivism, but let's say it's great because it's the first rung on the advocacy ladder. There's no barriers to entry. It's really easy to get involved. But the question is what happens after that, and I think a lot of people feel that they've contributed. They've posted, oh, this is awful. Let's retweet this photo of the First Lady. I've done my part. And the fact of the matter is that it takes a lot more than that. And I think that people, while it's a positive that people are joining the movement that way in an easy barrier to entry, the problem that I have is that what happens after that? And if you don't have any way to sort of, to get people involved and get them more deeply involved in the organization, they just move on. Look at Kony. Kony 2012 is a perfect example. Who's talking about that now? Nobody. Right? So it's this big movement, now nobody's talking about it. So, I think it's inherently positive. Talking about an important issue like this one is good. It's a great power of Twitter, the power of social media. It's fantastic that's able to spread like that. But I think it's a challenge. I think that, again, it creates a sort of easy. People feel, like you said, people feel good about themselves and they move on. And it's like, well, it takes a little bit more than that to affect change. It takes actual movement. So I'm hoping that there's people who are trying to use this awareness and trying to bring people into their organizations who are doing work, trying to solve these problems, and that there's a bigger plan rather than just something that's a flash in the pan and people forget about it 2 weeks later, right? So I'm conflicted.
Yeah, I think that this movement needs to move from online to offline for it to be effective. Yeah. I think that, as you said, I think these organizations need to start engaging the organizations, the big organizations that can actually do things, need to start engaging the people who are actually online to do something offline. Yeah. To get anything moving. And to be honest with you, like this is a tough situation. As I said, like hopefully this issue, hopefully these girls are found. I'm not very confident that they will be found. Just because of these terrorist organizations are so organized. It's like organized crime in North America, right? They're so organized that cause they would have found these girls already, right? If they're going to find them. So the more time goes on, I'm not confident they're going to find them. But what I would say is that I hope that what we can get out of this movement, if they don't find them, is that these organizations that do this kind of thing come up with solutions so this kind of stuff isn't happening again. So that would be the best thing that could come out of this hashtag, I would say, is that we find a solution to have these problems stop happening. Because, quite frankly, I'm not a parent yet, but I know when I am a parent in 6 months that if anything happens to my child, I can't actually say what I would do online. So I can only imagine what these parents are feeling like, and I know that half of these people out in Nigeria may not even have some access, might not have the access. I don't know what their global system is like, but maybe they don't have the access they need, and maybe they're not getting as much support as they should be. But I know as a parent, I would be. I couldn't explain how I'd be or what I'd do. So hopefully this hashtag will will grow this cause to not happen again. That would be what I would think. One more thing I want to add to this before I start rambling on is that I think the hashtag has taken over the importance of the real news stories that should be happening. I think that the news stories with the hashtag, and we're talking about the hashtag and the hashtag, but we're not talking about how to solve the problem. We're talking about the hashtag, right? So I think largely the media is more focused on this hashtag and the hashtag movement than actually reporting the what needs to happen and when is the government going to get involved and can they get involved and so forth and so on. I think it's more focused on social media, which unless it's taking offline action.
And that's my concern is that that's the hard work. The offline stuff and actually changing things for the better is the hard work. And this is I'd call it in some ways. I'd call it tokenism, right? It's it's like, well, look, I played my part. It's like, well, not really. You're raising awareness, and that could be a good thing. But I think that we have to be realistic about, in any way, shape, or form. Like, a hashtag how many times can you tweet a hashtag, right? And how many times can you raise awareness, and how long can you go on for this without, taking the next step? And I think that to me is the biggest concern. Is that while it's a positive overall, I think it needs to generate, like you said, I think it needs to generate offline action, and otherwise nothing's going to change. And then that's when you start questioning, well, is it worth doing? Because has anything changed since since this discussion started? So I think that's the most important thing.
So do you want to talk about
Ann Coulter?
Yes.
Yes.
I was trying to remember her name.
I don't have the image. You're right. I forgot about that. Well, it's interesting because the one thing I'll say, and we'll have to post it in the show notes. But it's interesting that the sort of one of the surprising victims, I guess, of this whole thing is Ann Coulter, and I wish I could show it. I don't have it in front of me, and I want to search for it. But let me give you a word of advice. When you hold up a white piece of paper that has something on it, and you're a controversial figure, and people are good at Photoshop, they're going to put a number of things on that white piece of paper that are not flattering to you. So,
which one do you want to? Do you want to share one? Let's see if my screen's sharing.
Go ahead. Sure, pick one. Yeah. Look at there.
Is there a specific one you want to share?
No, just pick one where I don't want to run. We don't want to run out of too much time. They're all hilarious. We'll post a gallery of a bunch of them in the.
Well, I just got it there. I'm gonna do that one because are we okay with the word? Yeah.
Just post it. We don't want to take any more time of anybody's.
Hopefully, I can get this working.
He's. Mark's learning technology here.
I don't know. Desktop? I guess so. Sure. Okay. Hopefully this will work.
Oh, we're enjoying watching you fiddle through. Oh, there we go.
Is it up?
Yep.
Bring back my soul. So that's pretty awesome.
I'm trying not to laugh because it goes to me, but they're pretty funny. So can you scroll through and show a few others?
Yeah, there's a few, but there's a few. Oh, we'll scroll past that one. Here's another good one. Bring back sexy.
There were okay. So what we'll say is we'll leave it at that. We'll post some stuff.
There's a really good one. Hold on, I've got to find this one. Oh, there we go. That's Tanya Harding. No, that's the Olympic. That's the Olympic girl looking at her medal. Oh, there we go. There's another good one. I think she needs a brain.
Well, you know what? No, I think they get the point. It's interesting.
Get out of this then.
Well, this has been a big fail for Ann Coulter, and well, I mean, I don't know. I think for her, any publicity is a good thing as far as she's concerned. But it seems like she didn't expect it, or at least it looks like she didn't suspect it, and say, "God, really." Look, if you're going to join in on a movement like this, and you're doing something like holding up something that is easily photoshopped, I can tell you that the internet the internet as a collective, they're very creative people, so they're going to come up with lots and lots of funny stuff. So that's a tough lesson for Ann Coulter to learn. But come on, I should point this out. The one thing I'll kick it to you, but the one point I'll say is I have seen a number of politicians local politicians and others from all different jurisdictions who are trying to hop on this and have done the same thing. And let me tell you, I am expecting over the next 6 months to year that there are going to be photos of these politicians holding up a sign that says something very different than what they're. I don't know why they would not think about that it could be used for nefarious purposes.
Yeah.
On a movement like.
Yeah. Kudos to dude who photoshopped it, because there was a guy who originally did it. He's like, here you go. It's a blank piece of paper. Like, people just don't think, eh? I think it's hilarious, because as soon as you put out that white piece of paper, put whatever you want on it. You can say whatever you want. It's awesome. I always look for that kind of stuff.
Oh, it's going to come back. But I've seen a number of candidates. Like I said, they're all jumping on the movement. Say, we will see that photo sometime in the near future. I can guarantee you, and it's going to be the message will not be about bring back our girls. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I gotta give a hand for the politicians who don't think about the future.
Well, they give us a lot of things to talk about, so that's definitely a positive. So
it is. It's awesome. Thank you very much, Coulter. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So on that, we'll wrap it up. So thanks again for watching. We appreciate your viewership, and if you have any comments, please let us know on our videos or on our Facebook page, and we will look forward to seeing you next week.
Have a great afternoon, folks.